Never speak to the man in room 6 after midnight. Don't look at the security monitors between 3:33 and 3:44 a.m. If you hear crying from the old maternity ward, ignore it. And above all, never, ever turn off the basement lights. The job posting had been brief and strangely urgent. Night security needed, immediate start, high pay, discretion required. The name of the place wasn't even listed, just a phone number and a location pin dropped in the middle of the industrial side of town. I had just lost my job, rent was past due, and something in the desperation of the ad mirrored my own. So I called. The voice on the other end was female, firm and emotionless. Come in tonight, midnight. Don't be late, and don't bring anyone. Then the line went dead. I showed up just before midnight, driving past crumbling warehouses and fenced-in lots until the building rose out of the fog. St. Amelia's Memorial Hospital, according to the faded letters above the entrance. The hospital looked like it hadn't seen a patient in years. Its walls were stained with time and entire wings seemed abandoned. But the front lobby lights were on, and a uniformed man stood waiting behind a security desk. He didn't greet me with a smile. In fact, he didn't smile at all. He handed me a folder with a name tag, an outdated walkie-talkie, and a slim pamphlet titled Overnight Security Protocol, Level Black. "You're the new one," he muttered, checking his watch. "You'll be on your own tonight. The others don't like the Friday shifts." Then he looked up, eyes dull and cold. "Follow the rules, especially the basement lights." I opened the pamphlet while he led me through the hospital, my footsteps echoing in dead silence. The place was eerily clean, but lifeless. No nurses, no patients, just empty beds, cold fluorescent lights, and the occasional flicker from overhead panels. The rules inside the pamphlet were typed in all caps, some underlined, some scratched, out and rewritten by hand. There were 13 rules, all of them strange. Rule 1. Begin rounds at exactly 12:01 a.m. Rule 2. Do not enter room 6 under any circumstances. If you must pass it, hold your breath. Rule 3. Do not look at the third-floor monitors between 3:33, 3:44 a.m. If you see movement, ignore it. Rule 4. Keep the basement lights on at all times. If they go out, leave the building. Do not go to the basement. Rule 5. If the intercom plays music after 2 a.m., cover your ears. Do not listen. Rule 6. The woman in the maternity ward is not a patient. Do not follow her. The rest were even stranger. My guide left me at the security office, a small room lined with screens and a tattered swivel chair. "Good luck," he said. "If you make it till dawn, come back here. I'll debrief you." Then he vanished into the dark hallway. At 12:01 exactly, I began my rounds. The first hour passed quietly. Too quietly. I walked past empty rooms, wheelchairs left mid-corridor, and elevators that hummed but never opened. I made the mistake of glancing into room 6. The door was slightly ajar. Inside, a man sat upright in bed, perfectly still, staring at the wall. My chest clenched. I didn't breathe. He didn't blink. Just as I passed, he turned his head and smiled. A slow, unnatural curl of lips that didn't reach his eyes. The maternity ward was worse. Long-forgotten lullabies played faintly from unseen speakers, and baby cribs stood in a perfect line like a museum display. I saw her then. The woman. She wore a nurse's uniform from the 1950s, hair curled and pinned. She moved as though gliding on air, head tilted, whispering something inaudible. When I blinked, she was gone. Back in the office, I watched the monitors until the clock struck 3:33. Every screen began to flicker. Black and white static, then sudden bursts of violent movement. Gurneys flying down halls, something crawling on the ceiling, a face pressed too close to a camera lens. I remembered the rule and looked away, heart pounding, but then the lights. in the basement went out. An alert buzzed red on the panel. Basement power failure. Override required. I grabbed the walkie-talkie. Hello? Anyone there? The basement lights? No answer, just faint static. Rule 4 pounded in my skull. Do not go to the basement. Leave the building. But when I reached the main entrance, the doors wouldn't open. They locked with a hiss. Metal shutters sealed the glass. I was trapped. The emergency override panel was in the east stairwell, 4 floors down. With every step, I took toward the basement. The air grew heavier. The hum of electricity faded into silence. Then I saw it. On the second landing, a trail of wet footprints, barefoot, leading down. I followed slowly, heart hammering. At the bottom, the hallway was pitch black except for the flicker of a single exit sign. The basement, once sterile and tiled, was now decayed. Water dripping from pipes, old gurneys covered in stained sheets. Then I heard the whisper, a raspy voice, inches from my ear. You shouldn't be down here. I turned, no one. But something moved in the darkness. Crawling, slithering, heavy like wet cloth dragging across concrete, I ran, slammed the override. The lights blinked to life just in time to catch a glimpse. A woman's face upside down, hanging from the ceiling, mouth open in an endless scream. Back. In the security office, I locked the door and didn't move until sunrise. When I opened the door at dawn, the hallways were pristine again, empty, normal, like nothing had happened. The old guard was waiting. He nodded without a word, handed me a coffee and patted the chair. First night's the worst, he said. Most don't make it back. I looked down at my hands, still trembling, and yet some deep, terrible part of me wanted to come back. If the man in room 6 speaks your name, run. If he smiles with teeth, lock the door and pray. If he stands, it's already too late. And if he leaves his room, the hospital will change. I slept through most of the day after my first shift, but not peacefully. My dreams were a tangled mess of flickering lights, blood on white tile, and whispers that crawled beneath my skin. I woke in a cold sweat at sunset, the weight of the job pressing down like an invisible chain wrapped tight around my chest. But still, I went back. When I arrived at the hospital, the old guard was already gone. A sticky note was taped to the monitor console in the security office. You're on your own tonight. Second nights are personal. Watch room 6. Read rule 14. My hands trembled slightly as I flipped through the rule book again. There hadn't been a rule 14 before. There it was now, freshly printed, added to the last page. Rule 14. If room 6 is empty, evacuate. Do not try to find him. I swallowed hard. I remembered the man from last night. His dead eyes, that slow, curling smile. His room had been cold, unnaturally still, like time had frozen inside it. Just walking past had made my skin itch. Something about him didn't feel like a person. Not really. The first few hours of my second shift were quiet. Too quiet. The monitor showed empty corridors. The lights hummed low but steady. Even the maternity wing was still. At 1:47 a.m., the camera for room 6 went dark. My heart jumped. I cycled through the feeds again. Nothing. Static. Room 6 was offline. I stared at the door on the monitor. It looked like the static was moving, swirling, almost forming shapes. My hands were slick with sweat as I reached for the hallway mic. Control. To room 6, I said, even though I knew it was useless. Please respond. Silence. The walkie crackled. A voice whispered, "He's walking." I dropped the radio. The voice hadn't been mine. It hadn't sounded like anyone living. I ran. When I got to room 6, the door was wide open. Inside, the bed, empty, sheets still warm. Heart monitor blinking idly. No patient. No sign of struggle. I backed out slowly, eyes sweeping the hallway. Nothing. just the faint flicker of fluorescent light above me, casting long shadows that twitched too much. I rushed back to the security office and replayed the past hour on the surveillance logs. At 1:42 a.m., the man had been in bed, perfectly still. At 1:43, the footage glitched hard. Frames skipped like a broken film reel, and then gone. But what disturbed me most was what came next. At 1:50 a.m., every monitor turned to static. Then one by one, they began displaying a single image. The hallway outside the office. But it wasn't live. It was me, watching the monitors, frozen. In place, except behind me, a tall figure stood in the dark. I turned, no one. But the room was colder now. The air smelled wrong, like rot, like old teeth and metal. That's when I heard it. Heavy, slow breathing. From the vent above me, I stood paralyzed, staring up. The sound was definitely coming from inside the ductwork. I backed away slowly, hand on my radio, when a single knock echoed through the vent from the inside. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I watched the hallway monitors, eyes wide, every muscle tense. Room 6 remained empty, but something walked the halls now. Lights flickered, doors creaked open without wind, and once, just once, I saw it on the camera. Tall, pale, wearing a hospital gown soaked in something dark. It stood in the east wing, staring directly at the camera. Its head twitched like something glitching in and out of reality. When 6 a.m. finally came, the lights returned to normal, and the monitors cleared. Room 6 showed a made bed. The door to the security office creaked open, and the old guard walked in, holding 2 coffees. He set one down beside me and looked at the monitor. He walked again, didn't he? I didn't answer. I just stared. He sighed, long and tired. Most of us break by the second night. You're doing better than most. What is he? I asked. My voice was hoarse. The old guard sat slowly, rubbed his face, and looked me dead in the eye. Some say he was a patient. Others say he's what's left of something older. A memory the hospital can't forget. Every few weeks he walks, and every time, someone new vanishes. I looked at him. Why would anyone keep this place open? He smiled sadly. Because it's not just a hospital. It's a threshold. And he's the doorman. I couldn't stop thinking about what the old guard had said. He's the doorman. That word haunted me. Threshold. As if the hospital itself wasn't just a place, but some kind of doorway. And room 6 wasn't a room, but a gate. And that thing, the man who sat so still, who smiled too wide, who walked without sound, wasn't just a ghost. He was a keeper, a warden. I went home that morning, but my apartment didn't feel safe. The walls seemed thinner, the corners darker. I pulled my curtains shut, locked the doors, and sat on the floor with the rule book open across my lap. I read every word again. I noticed something strange. Rule 6, the one about the woman in the maternity ward, had changed. It used to say, "The woman in the maternity ward is not a patient. Do not follow her." Now it said, Rule 6, if the woman in the maternity ward calls your name, hide. She is looking for something, and she believes it's inside you. My hands went cold. The rules weren't just warnings. They were alive, changing, reacting to what I had seen, what I had done, what the hospital had shown me. That night I came in at 11:59 p.m. I didn't wait to clock in. I didn't greet the old guard. He wasn't there. Just the empty halls, the silence, and the rule book, already sitting on the desk, open to a new page. One sentence, typed in bold, "Do not speak to room 6 tonight. He will know you." I tried to calm myself, repeating the routine. Start at 12:01, sweep all 3 floors, check each wing, don't linger, don't stare into the reflective surfaces. For too long, another rule I'd learned the hard way. But something was wrong. At 12:17 a.m., all the clocks in the hospital stopped ticking. Not froze, ticked backward. The analog faces spun slowly in reverse. The LED readouts flickered nonsense, random numbers and symbols. I tried my watch. It blinked. No time. The PA system crackled. Code white. Room 6 is unstable. I dropped. The flashlight. There was no one else in the hospital. No nurses. No staff. Who had triggered the code? The intercom buzzed again. A different voice this time. Hoarse, breathless. Security to room 6. Immediately. I didn't move. I didn't speak. Then the lights went out. Every bulb across the hallways exploded in sequence. Pop, 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 like a slow-motion machine gun of glass and voltage. I sprinted back to the security office, slammed the door, and locked it. The monitors were still working, but what they showed made my stomach flip. Room 6 was open, and the man was gone. But this time, the bed was still perfectly made, as if no one had ever slept in it. Worse, one by one, the cameras in each hallway began to go static. The east wing, the second floor, the stairwell, until only one feed remained. My hallway. I stared at the screen. Behind me, the hallway lights began to flicker. Then the camera feed on the monitor smiled. Not the man in the hallway, the feed itself. The pixels twisted into a low-resolution grin, mouth wide, impossible, shifting across the entire monitor face like some broken god watching through the wires, and then his voice. "I remember you," I bolted. Through the stairwell, past the empty maternity ward, past rooms that suddenly had shadows moving inside them, shapes that didn't look human. Crawling, twitching, jittering like stop-motion film left to rot. The hospital warped around me. What used to be a west wing became a brick corridor with doors bolted shut. Elevators opened into rooms full of mirrors. The chapel had become a surgical theater. The floors were no longer numbered. The walls pulsed like skin. I collapsed near the lobby, breath ragged. That's when I heard her, soft humming, lullabies, the maternity ward. My head snapped to the right. She was there, the nurse, dressed in crisp white, holding something wrapped in a blood-stained blanket. She turned to me and spoke my name. I don't know how she knew it. I never told anyone. I never wrote it anywhere. But she said it like she had always known me. "Come here," she whispered. "I have something for you. You lost it." I ran. I didn't care where. Through fire exit doors. Past the basement. Stairs. I didn't stop until I hit the roof access and burst out into the cold night air. The sky above the hospital wasn't sky anymore. It was black, not starless black, consuming black, like a mouth had opened above the hospital. The air buzzed with a frequency I could feel in my teeth. The building groaned beneath me. Something was coming up the stairs. I stood at the edge of the roof, heart pounding, ready to jump just to escape. But then, sunrise. Like a fuse going out, everything snapped back. The air went still, the lights flickered, and the roof door opened. The old guard stood there, holding coffee. Same as always. I collapsed to my knees. He said nothing, just looked at me with those tired, knowing eyes. "You saw him again, didn't you?" he asked. I nodded. "He knows your name now," he said quietly. "That means the rules don't work the same anymore." I looked up at him, voice raw. "What do I do?" He sipped. "His coffee. You survived the third night. There is no 4:44 a.m. in this hospital. If your watch shows it, you've slipped out of time. Do not breathe. Do not blink. Do not speak. Because during the broken hour, the hospital hunts." The third night began before I even stepped inside. As I pulled into the parking lot, the fog was already waiting, thick, yellow-gray, swallowing the streetlights and muffling the sound of my own footsteps. The hospital loomed through the mist like a half-remembered nightmare. Windows flickered in rhythm. like the building itself was blinking. The front door was ajar. That was the first red flag. The second? No old guard, just the walkie-talkie resting on the desk, still warm, and a new page in the rule book slipped between. The old ones. Rule 17. If you hear knocking behind a wall, it's not inside the wall, it's behind you. My fingers twitched. There were now 17 rules. I remembered there only being 13 the first night. The hospital was adding them, like it knew I was reading, like it was adjusting. For me. Tonight, I didn't bother with the routine. I didn't check floors in order. I didn't trust the elevators. I didn't trust the clocks. At 2:15 a.m., I passed by the morgue, and it was gone. Where the morgue had been, there was now a narrow hallway with no lighting, no signs, just that same low humming I'd heard in the maternity wing. As I backed away, I noticed something smeared on the wall. A child's handprint, small, red, and still wet. I turned and ran back to the security office, hoping to find the old feeds, to piece together what the building was doing. Instead, I found myself on the monitor. Not a recording, not old footage. Liv. I was watching me. Stand outside the security room, breathing heavily, glancing behind my shoulder. But I wasn't doing any of that. I was inside the office, staring at the screen. I turned around. The hallway was empty. On the monitor, it was full. I turned the monitor off. From the hallway, a voice whispered, "You're in the wrong reflection." I pressed my back to the wall. I don't know how long I stood there. Maybe minutes, maybe hours. That's when everything stopped. The hum, the cameras. Even the flickering lights froze, and the clock read, "Hey, 44, am the broken hour." I hadn't seen it before. Not even on the first 2 nights. All the hospital clocks skipped from 4:43 to 4:45, but tonight something had shifted. The rule book didn't have a rule for 4:44. But I remembered what the old guard had said. If you ever see that time, don't breathe. So I didn't. I stood there, lungs burning, as a shape passed the hallway window, not walking, drifting. It was tall, emaciated, its body twitching like it didn't fit inside its own skin. Arms too long, head too low. It turned toward the window. It didn't have a face, just a mouth where the eyes should be. Teeth like broken glass, chattering silently. It opened its jaw and sniffed. I held my breath until my vision blurred. It passed. The clock rolled over to 4:45, and the hospital came alive again. Except something followed me back into reality. Back. In the office, I found the old guard's ID badge sitting on the desk, but I hadn't seen him all night. And then the walkie-talkie crackled. End of the 3rd shift. Go to the chapel. You need to see. I considered ignoring it, but something inside me knew. If I didn't go now, I wouldn't get another chance. The chapel was buried in the west wing. I'd seen it before, but never entered. The doors were always locked. Tonight, they stood open. Inside was darkness. No pews, no cross. Just walls of flickering monitors, hundreds of them, showing footage of the hospital from every era. Black and white grainy reels from the 1960s, color static from the 1980s, and in every frame I saw them, people watching, standing in doorways, peering through windows, always watching, and in one screen near the center, I saw me, not walking, not breathing, just standing. Behind me stood the man from room 6, his hand on my shoulder. The feed went black. The air in the chapel thickened, and from the ceiling something began to lower. Not by rope. Not by gravity. It descended like a marionette, limbs swinging, neck limp, head slowly rising as it landed. It looked like a nurse, but her mouth was sewn shut with surgical thread. Her eyes were burned black. Her hands trembled. She held out a page. I took it. It was a new rule. Rule 0. You are part of the hospital now. There is no leaving, Only shifting rooms, my knees buckled, and then I heard the bells. Dawn. Light flooded the hallway. The chapel doors burst open, and the old guard stood there, hand outstretched. "Time to wake up," he said, to be continued. "Would you like me to go straight into Chapter 4, the final chapter, where the mystery is revealed and the final confrontation takes place? Or would you like me to expand more of Chapter 3 to hit that long-form word count target first? Tonight, the hospital will ask you to make a choice between escape and understanding, between silence and truth. You may see yourself in the halls. Do not speak to him, because only one of you will make it to morning. I didn't go home after the third night. I couldn't. My apartment felt distant, unreal. The walls had started to breathe. The shadows on the floor lingered too long. Every reflective surface showed not my face, but versions of me in hospital scrubs, blood-stained and screaming, mouths open in silence. I knew what was happening. The hospital was following me, or maybe I had never left. So, before night fell, I returned to the only place that made sense anymore, the security office. The door was already open. Inside, on the desk, was a single envelope, yellowed, brittle, sealed in wax, written across the front in fine, shaking letters, "For the final shift." Inside was no rule, no map, just a key, and beneath it, a sentence etched into the paper in deep gouged letters. "Unlock room 6. Stared at it, heart pounding. Every instinct screamed no, but something deeper whispered yes, a cold certainty that this was always where the rules had been leading me. As the clock struck 12:01, I made my way to the west corridor. The hospital was already beginning to shift. The walls pulsed, doors disappeared. The floor slanted upward at impossible angles. When I reached room 6, it was no longer a hospital room. It was a gate. The door was metallic now, blackened iron, covered. In carvings I couldn't read. The air was heavy. Breathing hurt. My fingers trembled as I slid the key into the lock. It turned with a sound like bone snapping, and the door opened inward, into darkness. I stepped inside. There was no ceiling, no floor, just an endless drop and a narrow bridge of flesh and wire. All around me were suspended images. Memories, I realized. Mine, childhood trauma, a car crash I had forgotten, a woman's face, my mother, a grave I had never visited. The hospital was inside me, or I was inside it. I walked the bridge, each step a different memory underfoot, until I reached the center. There, he waited. The man from room 6. But now I saw him as he truly was. Not a man. Not even a thing with shape. He flickered between forms. A doctor, a corpse, a mirror, a wolf, me. "You came," he said, using my voice. "They always do, on the 4th night." "I want answers," I said. He laughed, and the sound echoed across the void like broken machines. "You want rules, patterns, a reason to obey. That's why the book worked so long. But rules can't stop rot, they just slow it." "What is this place?" I demanded. "What am I?" He stepped closer, every version of him watching me from shifting faces. "You were a patient once, long ago. You died on this floor. Room 6, 4:44 a.m., the heart monitor flatlined, and the hospital made a deal. Now you keep it alive." I backed away. "No, that's not—" "You were the first night guard," he said. "The one who stayed. The one who watched. You wrote the rules to protect yourself, and now you hand them down. You're not trapped here. You are the trap." My knees buckled. The memories in the air burned into my skin. Every night I thought I was surviving. I was resetting, helping the hospital begin again, letting it feed on fear, confusion, blood, the old guard, the radio, the rules, They were mine, all along. "You want to leave?" he asked. "You can, but someone must take your place. Someone must write the rules." He stepped aside, revealing a mirror. Inside it, me, as I am now. Guard uniform, pale, eyes hollow. Behind me in the reflection, another me, smiling, wearing a hospital gown, standing in room 6. It all clicked. The other me was waiting to cross over, to escape the room, to trade places. If I left, he would become real. "Choose," the man said. "Stay or let him in." I stared into the mirror. The reflected me raised a hand. He mouthed one word, "Please." I made my decision. I took the rule book. I sat in the chair by the desk in room 6, and I began to write. Rule 1, if the new guard sees you, don't smile. It unnerves them. Rule 2, let them think they have a choice. Rule 3, remember their name. It helps the hospital find them. Rule 4, always leave a fresh page. The rules must grow. The door to room 6 closed softly behind me, and somewhere far above, the clock struck midnight. Epilogue. The new guard. He walked in just before 12:01 a.m., nervous, pale, green uniform creased from storage. He found the rule book, sitting open on the desk. His fingers hovered over the first page. His radio crackled. A voice whispered, "Watch room 6." And I smiled from inside the mirror, waiting. If you think the story ends here, think again. Some horrors don't fade when the screen goes dark. They just begin.